Breaking now at 11, law enforcement suited up in riot gear just moved in on pro-Palestinian activists dressed in black bloc who now for hours have been protesting outside UW's Interdisciplinary Engineering building, blocking entrances with makeshift barricades, even setting dumpsters and trash on fire as they once again demand the university sever ties with Boeing. Good evening, I'm Preston Phillips. Let's get right out to Como's Jackie Kent, who has been there all evening long. She is live on campus. Jackie, what's the latest right now? What are you looking at?
Yeah, Preston, I've stepped out of the frame to give you a better view. You can see a line of Seattle police officers here on East Stevens Way off Jefferson Road, which is right in front of this engineering building where this all took place today. We just heard police over a loudspeaker announce it's been an hour since they first ordered people to disperse, that they need the street to be clear so emergency vehicles can respond, and told these pro-Palestinian protesters they can remain on sidewalks and peacefully protest. You might be able to hear them. They are about a few hundred yards away. This is a group of pro-Palestinian protesters who have been here for about 5 hours today. This is a group dressed in all black. They stacked furniture to make a blockade in front of the engineering building early today. They toppled dumpsters in the street to block off nearby Jefferson Road, confronted a security officer at one point until he drove away. They also lit those dumpsters on fire, and that's what we told you in the past half hour when fire crews came in here and extinguished it. Turning right here to the front door of the engineering building, you can see Seattle police now starting to enter the building. You might be able to see in the windows, if we could get a good look, there are some protesters still in the building. We reached out to a UW spokesperson earlier today to ask about how they're going to handle this, and they said that they would have police nearby and that people trespassing in the building would face legal and student conduct actions. Right now we're seeing at least a dozen police officers removing chairs and other blockades from the front of the building, entering the front, while other police are still lining East Stevens Way. You can hear these protesters now getting closer to the entrance and chanting closer to them. This, again, this group dressed in black, this is a separate group from Super UW that organized this initial protest outside the building, urging the university to break ties with Boeing as the war in Gaza continues.
We'll allow peaceful protests on the sidewalk, but you cannot interfere with these officers. If you remain in the street, you can be subject to arrest. You can peacefully protest on the west sidewalk. Do not interfere with these officers. Do not get in their way.
You can hear that police announcement again, warning protesters. Go ahead.
Jackie, can you hear me? I'm just curious right now as they're going into this building here on the UW campus. Do we know if there are protesters inside the building or have they just blockaded those entrances? Do you know?
I think both, Preston. We know from earlier they moved the blockade from the sidewalk closer to the entrance of the building. And I can see from our angle they moved some chairs that were blocking the doors. And I can see in the windows on the second floor there were at least 2 people inside the building wearing all black, but they've since closed the shades so we could no longer see them. And now you can see right in front of us police now entering the building.
You know, Jackie, earlier as I was watching all the live feeds and you were out there on ARC Seattle as well, we saw a lot of the black protesters, or the protesters dressed in all black, as you were mentioning a little earlier. We saw so many of them with the umbrellas. Do you know if they just left or they just kind of mixed within the crowd there? Because before it was very clear who they were and where they were standing, but now I don't see as many of them. Do you know where those people went?
Yeah, they do seem to have dispersed, and it looks like a mix of people right now. So it's kind of hard to distinguish who people are with. We're also seeing a lot of students show up just to watch what's happening with their cameras. There was a lot of action earlier with the fire department that drew a lot of people out here. We're pointing you toward the window right now. You could see police inside, armed, looking through the building, and so a lot more police officers look to be following inside too.
You know, Jackie, as we see all these law enforcement, these officers there, we know that State Patrol is also mixed in with the police that we're looking at there. We can see Seattle PD's Poet team also part of this. I'm a little curious because when you go online, you look and see what people are saying about this. A lot of people are a little upset that police didn't show up sooner. I know there was a bit of a delayed response. There was that fire in the dumpster as well that the protesters had said. It was a pretty large fire. It did take a while for firefighters to get there, maybe 30 minutes or longer. There are also complaints with people online talking about how the university may have been aware of this, and this ended up happening anyway. And then you see the fires. You see the protesters show up with a black bloc blocking, our Como news cameras with umbrellas. And it reminds you of the old CHOP days back in Seattle's Capitol Hill neighborhood. This is the fire we're looking at here of the dumpsters that were set on fire. And it took a long time for the fire department to arrive. A lot of people online, with everything that's going on across the country right now and, different things, people saying this looks really embarrassing, Jackie, for the University of Washington. For this to happen on campus and then for there to be such a delayed response to put the fire out, to stop this from happening, it's kind of an interesting response tonight. Are you hearing any of that kind of same thing while you're on campus there?
Yeah, and we noticed that too, Preston, and we heard that many Seattle police and state troopers were on the other side of Jefferson Road from where we are on East Stevens. We couldn't get far that direction because the dumpsters that were on fire were blocking that street. We couldn't go that way. So we heard that there were police on standby earlier today. It's unclear why fire crews didn't come sooner. We do know that East Stevens Way was blocked off with a bike rack, with chairs and other furniture. So it's possible that maybe crews were told that they wouldn't be able to get in off East Stevens Way. But absolutely, we watched that fire burning for about a half hour before we saw the first bits of water put on it.
Yeah, it seemed like it took a long time, and then we finally saw law enforcement show up right behind fire, like they showed up at like the same time wearing their ballistic helmets and then kind of clearing the way. But as far as what I've seen so far, I haven't seen any arrests take place. Have you?
We have not seen any arrests, and just to clarify, Preston, police, before fire crews came in to extinguish that fire, someone came in over the loudspeaker and told the protesters that police would be escorting fire crews just to make sure everyone would stay safe, and that's when they made that first line formation on Jefferson Road in front of the dumpsters, and they told protesters that if they tried to block fire crews, then they would risk getting arrested as well. So that's why we saw police and fire show up at the same time.
So, Jackie, right now from our live shot that we're looking at from you, we can see those officers and the different law enforcement inside that building. Have you seen if they've been able to make their way to that second floor where you said you did see maybe a couple of protesters up there in that building?
We can't see the second floor anymore because the shades are pulled down, but we do see several officers on the first floor and trying to see if they're escorting somebody. It's hard to see if they're coming on the other side, but we know people are definitely still on the first floor, so it's really a wait and see out here.
Jackie, we've seen these protests happen before. We saw this happen last year where they set up the tent encampments, and there were a lot of conversations had, this whole divest from Boeing in Israel. Have you talked with any of the people out there today about what it is that they're really trying to accomplish here tonight? Clearly, this is getting a lot of attention from a lot of different places, and it might even get attention from the White House. We'll see what ends up happening just based on the political climate right now. But have you been talking with anybody out there as to what it is they're really trying to accomplish here?
Oh, absolutely. So it was the group Super UW, a separate activist group that started this initial demonstration, and they said they wouldn't leave until UW met all of their demands. They wanted UW to repurpose this engineering building into a community-controlled space. It was purchased by Boeing, so they want it to be renamed. They want UW to stop receiving donations from Boeing. And lastly, to end the expulsion or suspension of pro-Palestinian activists. But in the last couple hours, we saw many of those Super UW protesters leave, and it's the protesters dressed in all black who some of them are still out here. We're seeing a lot of other students out here as well, so it's unclear if they plan to come back out here tomorrow. They said they had planned to stay out here until UW met their demands, so they clearly left earlier than they thought they would.
Yeah, they knew what was coming. I'm curious, Jackie, has there been any representation from the University of Washington there on campus at any point tonight, kind of watching what's going on and seeing what's happening to their campus?
I have not seen anybody come out here. I just got a statement from a spokesperson that they would have police on scene. The trespassers in the building would face consequences, whether that's student conduct actions or legal consequences. But I haven't seen any spokespeople or anybody from the university specifically walking by to scope out what's going on, or just, to make sure if police have a handle on things.
Jackie, quickly before we go to break here, well, I've got you for another 30 seconds or so. Can we pan out just a little bit or pull out the camera so we can see any of the other people who might be there on campus that are kind of gathering to watch? Because we're hearing some noise. There are people chanting and stuff.
Yeah, we'll pan out real quick just to give you a view of the crowd that's out here. We have police here lined up on East Stevens Way, but to the left, we have more students, some pro-Palestinian protesters starting to chant out here, people with their phones just waiting to see what comes out of the building, if police end up taking anybody out of the building. So it looks like there are still a few dozen people left out here, Preston.
Okay, Jackie Kent, live on the UW campus tonight following this pro-Palestinian protest. We're going to follow this as law enforcement makes their way into that building, clears some of the barricades that have been put up here throughout the evening. We're going to take a quick break, but we'll be back right after this.